We good?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, guys, so today we are going to focus on basically controlling and finishing the Army Guillotine from the open guard. Now, of course, on Monday and in the drills today, we worked through a couple of the ideas. We talked about the mechanics involved in the finish. We're going to go through that again during the course of today's technique, so I'm not going to spend too much time recapping that. And of course, as we drilled, we're talking about the tactical application of, you figure like most of the time you're catching a guillotine, it's in a scramble situation. So it might be, Chase shot in on a takedown. When I catch him, right, let's say you come up with it, right, and we're here, so we freeze here, or let's say, whatever, I escaped, he ended up in turtle, and I catched it out of there. Whatever the case may be, quite often the guillotine is caught in a scramble, and so you end up with a neutral situation of either on the feet or on the knees. Okay, and in this situation, what I do not want to do, as we've noted, is pull them backward against their resistance, because that is going to facilitate a pretty good opportunity for them to pull their head out. What I instead want to do is force him to make a choice. Again, we have to think about our jiu-jitsu from the perspective of, man, there's some sweaty palms today. We want to think of it from the perspective of not like, how do I force the outcome that I wish to make happen occur, but rather, how do I facilitate the situation where they will choose to make that outcome occur, right? So I want them to drive into me, so I drive them backward. And the thing that I don't think I really touched on this too much on Monday, but I just want to make this note is, let me grab you from this front headlock situation, is if Chase does not do something about the situation, is like, I'll just push him over. And I'll just take a position, right? Honestly, his safest escape route is concede everything, put his back to the floor, and give up all position. That's the safest route for him to find, to exit this choke. They might just do that. They might just say, you know what, I don't want to get strangled, here's side control. Well, cool, thank you, I appreciate that. If they choose to fight back and they try to drive into us, we will end up in this open guard situation. So as we talked about on Monday, in the arm, when ending up in this open guard situation, I want to make sure that the shin of the arm that's choking lines up across the midsection with my foot hooking on the hip. So over here, he drives in, boom, and I want to make sure that the leg, the calf on the side of the arm that's controlling hooks over top and finds his hip here. If you can't quite find the hip, that's not a death sentence, but it is optimal if I can make this sort of dual mechanism. You guys see this? Like these two directions as I clamp. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yes, sir.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about finishing and control. There are two main positional facets that I want to accomplish in this arm and guillotine from the open guard. Okay? Number one. Yeah. I want to fall, so to speak. I want to lean, not backward, but toward the side that I'm choking. So meaning, I'll grab your head on this side. I don't want to find myself positionally here so much as here. Now you may ask yourself, or even ask me, well, coach, didn't you say that the objective is they drive into you and we go backward and they land on top of us? Didn't we just drill that? And I would say, yep. Anyway, no, but in all seriousness, it's a worthy question to ask. At the end of the day, you can only cover so much so quickly, right? So we need to understand, like, basically what the mechanics of them driving into us are, so to speak, before we can really fine-tune that open guard station. So kind of the, further complicating matters. Let's say I have you on this side. He drives in, my shit goes, and I go sideways. Ooh. Huh? Huh? Nothing? Okay. So I don't want to go straight backward. I want to go falling towards my side. This is very important because if you think of it like this, we've talked about this a number of times, we have to imagine ourselves as being sort of like an anchor around his neck. If I'm pulling him this way and he starts pulling backward, I'm creating the very counter resistance, keep pulling, that will create the release, that will get his head free, right? So when I fall straight backwards and my weight's leaning backward, I'm actually creating the very counter pressure he needs to exit this choke. So if I grab you, I have it, I go straight backward. It's like if he starts pulling up, right, I have to do a lot of work to hold on to him. However, if I fall to the side, it's like pull straight up, please. You can ask Chase, it's kind of like awkward because you can't just lift up. My weight's kind of to the left of his left. Does that make sense? So here, he pulls up, and it's like he can kind of create some arch of his back. So we go back. From here, he's kind of kinked up. Does that make sense, guys? Furthermore, what I want to make sure I do, you okay down there? Yeah, great. Excellent. What I want to make sure I do is I want to connect my sternum to his shoulders. This is probably like the most important detail. If I stay back here, pull your head free, I'm going to use no strength. Son of a bitch. Let me go back. If I connect my sternum, pull free. Go ahead, pull your head up. Keep pulling. Just keep pulling your head. You see that, guys? As my shoulders go back, the clamp that I have. So what's really, you okay now?
Oh yeah, it's horrid. It's great.
Let me get you back in that turtle, sort of just on your knees position. Like head facing the group and not so much turtle, like as if I had that choking on. What's happening here is I'm anchoring myself to one side and then blocking this path. So if he tries to sit up, it's really quite awkward. If everything is here and I don't have that control to sit up, he's very powerful. So once we get all these ideas we constantly talk about, disrupting their alignment, displacing their head position, and so on. Now, this brings us into the finishing sequence, which here's the fascinating aspect. The very control mechanics that we just talked about, as in falling to our side and keeping our chest up, are also the very things that will create the greater access to the finish, for one very simple reason. We talked about this for a moment in Monday's class. Can I get you just like underneath and facing me? When we talk about back chokes, or rather chokes in general, and in this case front chokes, I want to think about fastening really tight to this. We talked about there's three components, right? There's the choking mechanism from the front, the shelving mechanism from the back, and then the supporting mechanism, which will usually be on the side, right? So in this case, it's the connection of my hands around this arm. The weird thing about front chokes, what we did talk about was how I want to leave this space down here. I like to refer to this as the bubble. So in the sense of your posture, please. The space that I'm actually choking, I want to kind of leave this pocket open. So I call this the bubble, because I want to imagine there's a little bubble between my chest and his chest that I want to leave open. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? What I think is really important to grasp about the bubble is that what we instinctively tend to do, actually, let me get you out here for just a second, just hang tight. What we instinctively tend to do when we think about choking is like, since we're tightening up in so many other places, we go, it's not finishing, coach. Well, like, look, motherfucker, you can't even see their neck. How are you going to possibly know 100% that your hands are in the right spot? I mean, real talk. People are like, how do I know if my hands are in the right spot? Are you choking them? Are they getting choked? No? Then they're fucking not, dog. Like, what do you want me to say? The point is, grab me, please. I have to be able to adjust. Because if I don't, like, think of it, let's say he shot in that blast double, boom, I catch it right away. Is it likely to say that I'm going to snatch that guillotine and in that exact moment that I'm catching it, I'm going to have the perfect hand position to finish it every single time? Like, is it realistic to say you'll cultivate that muscle memory so accurately? I don't think so. I'm uncoordinated, so like that's too complicated. That's too involved for me. But here's the thing. Can you grab me, please? Elbows are tight, chest is tight. You can ask Chase, my hands are super loose down here, right? So if I'm not quite finishing it, I just keep making my adjustments, sliding it, finding the location that my hands need to go. What you guys didn't see down there, I have the guillotine, I have the thing. You can ask Chase, elbows super tight, chest super tight, wrists and hands super loose, right? Yeah. So I'm going, okay, it's not quite finishing. Maybe I slide this back a little, maybe I slide this through a little, whatever. But I can make adjustments with my hands in this pocket. So I want to preserve the bubble so that I can stay loose with my hands while the elbows and the chest are what locks everything in. So putting that all together, I guess I'll get your head on this side. Once I'm here, so I get everything in position, fall to the side, and I'm here. You can ask Chase once again. I'm still loose in the arms. Like now, keep try to pull away. Nothing else is loose though, right? It's just the wrists. So as I start contorting, so if I get you postured up, let's just say, imagine I have his head and arm. Hands are loose. I'm making adjustments in the pocket if necessary, and the pressure is my elbow going kind of toward my hip and then past it. So I'm here and I'm here, right? So like the logical end of this finish would be I'm crunching all the way around. Obviously, you will not do that to them unless you would basically twist their head off like a bottle cap, which is not ethical. Probably not legal either. Though y'all signed the liability agreement. Twist off some heads. Do you want to see all that?
I know, I think I got it.
Cool. So going through that one more time. So actually, let me Lila, can you grab a second point? So putting that in perspective, let's get here. Perfect. So let's say I got your head. So again, we secured the position. If I go straight backward and my chest is back, if you guys, can you raise your right arm up, please, Lila? You see, there's no space between us, so I can't adjust anything. She starts pulling her head free, and I have to use all of my muscles to fight it, and she slips out. Go back. Okay, same position. Instead, I'm here, so can you come a little bit closer? Thank you. To the side, and then sit up. Pull away, please. It's awkward, right? Now, if you can ask Lila, my hands are super loose, right? So all I'm doing is just, right. If the hands weren't quite in the right spot, which is why I was grabbing you, because like it might not have been in the right spot, happened to work out where it was, but if they're not, I can feel that looseness, I can adjust, can move my arms around. The finishing mechanism ultimately is toward the hip and then past it. Like a golf swing, yeah. You know, or you kind of almost think of it like an uppercut, like how you would throw an uppercut, where you kind of like throw your hip into it. Similar idea. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? Y'all with me?
Yes.
So again, choking mechanism to the side, and then crunch, and keep these hands loose. It's very hard for them to reach in there and fight your hands from this, and if they start fighting your hands for this, they're going to open up plenty of other opportunities. Plus, remember, I have that arm behind me. From here, crunching in and turning up for the finish. Let's play around with it. 1, 2, 3.